All right, hey everyone. So I'm Norswap, and I build HappyChain. So when Akil asked me to do this talk, he was like, well, tell the audience what you want to see on HappyChain, what it stands for, and what it's going to build. So this talk has two parts. I'm quickly going to run through the sort of pitch for HappyChain, like what we're building and why we think it's important, and then I'll tell you what I'm excited about and what I want to see on HappyChain. So first thing first, what's the main problem that people are facing with on-chain games today? Shit is too hard. It's too hard for builders and it's too hard for users. So let's focus on users first. If you put your game in front of someone that has no idea what the blockchain is, what they have to do looks a little bit like this. So they have to install a wallet like MetaMask. What the hell is that? Secure their seed phrase. What the hell is that? Why is it important? Then they need money. They need gas to play. So they got to open a centralized exchange account. They got to wire some money in. And actually, this was supposed to be a little money emoji. I got cut out. Then you got to put that money on the chain. If the chain is supported by a centralized exchange, otherwise you got to put it on another chain and then bridge it. And then finally, after having done all that, maybe 2 days later, then you can play the game. This is not a great funnel for retention. So what if instead we could have this experience? You just log in with Google, Facebook, whatever, and then you just start playing. No money involved. And then once you're invested in the game, once you're like, this is cool, I want to play more, I want to get this cool sword, then you put money in, and we're also working on ways to make that a lot easier. So sort of to this point, in Web 2, free-to-play is the main funnel of acquisitions for games. And it's kind of crazy that we don't have that in Web 3, and that is the thing that HappyChain aims to fix for builders. Do you want people to play your game or not? That's the question. So I'm going to skip the technical details of how we do this, but I had a talk at HCC this week which sort of explains the various part of the stack and why it's kind of difficult to build this and why it's difficult to build it yourself. It's not easy. The solution we have looks like this. So everybody that onboards on HappyChain is going to have a single account. It's a smart account. It's controlled by social login, and there's gas sponsorship. And it's going to be easy for your devs to integrate. So why does this need to exist at a chain level? Some people might ask me, why don't you do just a wallet that you use on other chains? It's a coordination problem. If you have a game and there's this wallet and nobody else is using it, why would you start using it? For us, it's easy because we start a new chain. Every game on there uses the wallet. Having a chain, we also have a token, so we can incentivize using the wallet, and we can incentivize users on the game and builders. And the airdrops on HappyChain are kind of special. You can claim a few tokens every day, and these are locked into the wallet, and you can only spend them on games. Then the tokens you win there, these are completely unlocked and normal. The game that receives the token, if it's for a purchase, they can spend the token, it's completely normal. But the airdrops, they're for using the product. And then we also offer gas sponsorship through this account system. Finally, the difference between sponsoring at the app level and sponsoring at the ecosystem level is that an app will only sponsor usage of its own app. But you might also want, once you've played an app, you might want to move your tokens to another app. You might want to do some other things that are outside the confines of the app. And doing this at a chain level means we can support these use cases. Quickly, gas sponsorship, every user gets an allowance, project that partner get an allowance, and since we control the S token for the chain, we're pretty agnostic and we can offer good guarantees for the sponsorship. Of course, when the chain is full, things degrade, so there's still work to do. If HappyChain is to be very successful, which is a really good problem to have, then we need to find a way to scale the thing, and I have a lot of ideas there, but it's sort of not the topic of this talk. We do have a mitigation built in, though, is that we have ways to verify users. We can verify if they have a real iOS or Android device. They can also do optional identity verification. And this can be used when the chain is fully congested. We can prioritize users that we know are real humans instead of bots. We only do this when the chain is full. It's going to be super easy for your devs to integrate this, and I'm not going to enter into the details here. So yeah, there's a solution, super easy for users to onboard, super easy for devs to integrate, and it's a single account for everybody, so there's no like fragmentation. You can move your things between different games without, still without paying fees. We have more stuff that are geared at making the life of on-chain game developers and social apps developers easy. Really good randomness support for private information, because in games you don't want everything to be public. If you have a card game and you draw some cards, you don't want those to be public. On-chain automation, react to events, react to state, execute some logic every single block. And then the same verification technology that I talked about, which you can also use to, say, if you're a game builder, target airdrops at users that you know are not bots. Okay, so that's what we're building, and that's why we think it's a good use case for game builders. Now, why is all that important? I apologize in advance to all the gaming OG that are in the room, because you already know all of this, but it's sort of an introduction of why on-chain gaming is really cool and why I think it's a major use case for blockchain going forward. And also why what we're building is a good fit. So I know a lot of on-chain builders, and recently I feel a lot of them are a little bit cynical, a little bit jaded. Getting users is really too hard for them. And so they're saying, well, let's just build for the users that we have instead of the users we could have. And the users that we have are degens. They're people that are gambling money, or they are trying to make a return, or they are people that are farming airdrops. And frankly, no pun intended, maybe pun intended, this makes me sad. It's not happy at all. And I think if on-chain gaming is to succeed, we need to go beyond this little niche of users that have money from their previous, crypto bags, and share that value that we're creating with more people. And I'm going to talk about what that value is. And finally, on-chain gaming is a Trojan horse to introduce the values of crypto to a broader audience and make them care about it. And I'm going to talk about what these values are. So it's sort of like in a single slide why on-chain gaming is awesome. So it's safe, right? You know that what's in the smart contract is going to be executed. There's nobody that runs the server that can do whatever they want. When there's money at play, that's important, On-chain, not on-chain, but online poker websites have been known to cheat. It's democratic, so you can decentralize the value of in-game economies. If the game is generating profits, you can distribute some of them to the users. And there's a great economic integration with all the tools from DeFi that let you move token in and out. So anytime that money is involved, on-chain gaming makes sense. On-chain gaming also makes it easier for users to create and mod games and build user-generated content. And I'm going to talk about what that looks like in practice. It's massively multiplayer by default. Like share state is the default of blockchain. It's the whole reason that it exists. It leads to better economic models. And what I really like is that on-chain, you can monetize a fully open source game. In Web2, if you do that, people just fork your game and then just play it for free. But we have a culture of the blockchain when we like the legit thing. We like the NFT collection that is the real one, not the one that just copied the picture. And so that's a very powerful property where your thing is fully open, but it can still make money. And finally, another property of being fully open is that the games are forkable and unkillable. And this keeps you honest. This keeps the builder honest. If they try to monetize too much, if they try to milk the players for money, the players might be fed up and they might say, well, we're going to back some guy that's going to fork the game and make a version that we think is what we want. And unkillable because if the game is done right, then it can run forever on the blockchain as long as the blockchain itself is running. So on-chain gaming can embody the crypto ethos outside of finance, and finance is important. It's probably more important to decentralize finance than to decentralize gaming, but we can do so much more than this, and so that's what we're trying to do. And we can get people to care about decentralization in general by doing this. So decentralize all the things. And when people say decentralization, it often sounds like an empty slogan, but I think we can be very concrete with what decentralization means. These are all the nice properties that I listed in the previous slide. These are the game developer is fucking around, trying to get all my money, the game sucks now. Well, you're free to just go and make a better version. That's what decentralization means. And like the way I like to phrase it is really empower users to have ownership in the game as co-creators of the game. It doesn't mean they're going to design the games and all the little features, but they have power that they don't have in Web 2 gaming. So what we want to see on Happy Chain, now we get into examples. All the things in bold I'm going to talk about on this slide because I have a specific slides for them. So let's talk about things that are not in bold. Interesting on game economies, that one's kind of vague, but if you have a StarCraft-style game, a World of Warcraft-style game, there are items, people trade them, resources, you can do all sort of fancy things there. Decentralizing existing game, this is about what I just talked about, where you can fork the game and keep the game builders accountable for what they're building. User-generated content as game mechanics. So there are some Web 2 games where user-generated content is like the point of the game, right? Roblox is very popular recently. People can build their mini games in Roblox, and a lot of people play Roblox just to play the mini games that our people have created using this. Dungeon Keeper is an old school one where you sort of build a dungeon that other players then have to venture into. And you can do many variations on this, but this is something like I think works really, really well on the blockchain. You can even monetize these user-generated content. And finally, game building framework. So again, Web 2, there are things like this. RPG Maker is a very famous one. And on the blockchain, we have Downstream, which is, it's sort of like a framework for building your 2D isometric games, where you can design buildings and resources and have all kinds of interesting stuff going on, so I recommend that you check them out. New economic models. Play to earn was an early example of this. It's by no means the only example. Play to earn is interesting. It's unsustainable if everyone chases money, like otherwise it's a Ponzi scheme. Someone has to spend money for the model to be sustainable. But as it turns out, people want other things than money. They want status, they want mastery, they want to be the very best in the game, even if it costs them a little bit of money to get there. They want to be the guy that owns the game, so that's status, even if they have to spend to get there. So, I think interesting challenge for on-chain game designers will be to tap into these other sources of value. I like modding a lot. And here are some examples of existing types of game and how we can create user-generated content and mods for them. So MOBA, these are things like League of Legends, where you have heroes and they battle and they try to destroy the other base. Where you can design custom heroes and items and get your friends to play them. Trading card games, those are things like Magic the Gathering or Pokemon cards. You can design custom cards, custom game modes. Any kind of board games, if you play board games at home, sometimes you have house rules. You're like, well, the game would be better if we changed this rule. So you just go ahead and do it. When you're playing a video game, you can't do that, but on-chain, you can reintroduce this freedom. Tower defense, which is this little game where little guys, they rush towards a castle and you have to build towers that shoot at them to prevent them from destroying the castle. Again, you can design your own maps with custom towers types, custom mobs, etc. And I think like these kinds of use cases will see traction in on-chain gaming. A non-gaming example, and a category in general, is like stupid things that make you smile. And this is from Smallbrain, which is a studio that's associated with us. And they built this thing called Yonk. In Yonk is kind of like Venmo, you send money to people. But for them to receive the money, they have to listen to a voice message that you gave them at max volume without having their headphones on. And you can check this in iOS. You can check that they actually do that. And the more they wait to listen to the message, the less money they get. So you're in the metro, your friends want to send you 20 bucks, but you have to listen to his message at high volume without headset in the metro, and you don't know what he's going to say. It's pretty stupid, but I think it's pretty fun. And we want to see more experience like this, stuff that's enabled by on-chain. Finally, there's what I called, and I cannot touch on this, digital reclamation of physical freedom. When you have a game in the physical world, you can change the rules however you want. Classical example, Magic the Gathering, it's a trading card game. It's a 1v1 game, but people made modes for 2v2, 3v3. You have to purchase these games, but then they made modes for you can only use cards that are cheap. It's a pauper mode. There's some communities online, some Reddits, subreddits you can go to. They create their own custom cards, just for fun. You can also say, this card's too strong, let's ban it. All this, when you have a physical card game, you can do. Once you play online, you can't do it because it's the game server that decides what's possible or not. When we go on-chain, now we can get these freedoms back. We can make the game moddable, forkable, and so we can reintroduce all of the OWL rules. You kind of have to be a dev. That's sort of the annoying thing here. But some of them you can build tools that enable normal users to do them. So that's pretty much it. That was HappyChain. That was what we're excited to see. And please talk to me about it and any questions you might have.